In order to discuss this idea of why does God allow suffering or why is there suffering in the world, I need to first remind you of my fundamental axiom for reality. So here's my belief in what reality is. And maybe it's something for you to play with, at least for the duration of this video, so that I can explain it how I would explain it. If you could imagine that when you go to sleep at night, you could dream a dream of an 80 or a 90-year lifetime on any given night. And in that dream, you sort of have the power to dictate anything that happens. And so you start off one night and you are having all of the best things that you could possibly have. You have the wealth, you have the love, you have just extremely glorious experiences, and nothing bad ever befalls you. There's no heartache, there's no pain, there's no suffering. And maybe you do this over and over for dozens or maybe even hundreds of times. And eventually, you want to surprise yourself. And so you stop to completely control what happens in the dream, and you leave a little bit of it up to chance, and that you're not going to drive the bus for a portion of it. And some interesting things start to creep in, some experiences that you've never had before. And this sort of reinvigorates and re-excites your experience value of these dreams. And eventually, you let go a little bit more and you let go a little bit more. And then eventually you completely let go and you say, I want to be completely surprised. I'm not going to determine or drive any of this dream. It's going to be complete chance what happens. And in that, some sort of harmonious chaos ensues. And you have a completely unforeseen, unexpected experience that was not known to you before, and every step along the way surprised you. And as you continue down this path of having these dreams of 50, 60, 70, 100 years of life, eventually you will dream the dream of the life that you are living right now. And that you've let things go so far, you've left them so up to chance, so up to surprise, that everything that happens is seemingly unforeseen. And things pop up out of nowhere, and life takes you for this sort of twist and that kind of turn. And it does the same thing to all of your loved ones and people that you know, and the society as a whole gets thrust in a direction that you couldn't have foreseen all of a sudden by some unforeseen circumstances. And sometimes that feels like an adventure, and sometimes it feels like a love story, and sometimes it feels like a horror film, and sometimes it feels like a suspense thriller. But in this way, it is the you who is dreaming the reality who is having an immense entertainment, an immensely entertaining time, just letting it play out and letting it go and saying, throw at me what you will. And so if this is your basis for what you believe reality is, that you are actually a dream that is being dreamt by the one singular essence, call that what you will, the one energy, the consciousness, the singular soul, the God, the Godhead, any of these things, we're saying the same thing. But if you are that having a dream, and that dream You've done such a good job surprising and fooling yourself that you think that all of this is very, very serious and very, very real. And you take it extremely hard sometimes, and you get extremely excited sometimes. You're just doing an immensely good job as a dreamer of letting yourself be surprised and just enjoying the play out. But in that sort of equation, there will ensue suffering, and there will ensue heartache and tragedy. And it is a part of getting lost in the drama that's being played out for the satisfaction of that one singular point. And so in this way, if you want to think of it as God, just for simplicity's sake, you have to realize that you are God, but so is everything else around you. And it is the one singular God who has dispersed itself in these trillions of different forms in order to experience this experience from all of those different vantage points. Right? The way in which you can be omnipresent is to be everything all at once. And so from that perspective, there is an omnipresence, there is a one singular. Everything is that one singular. But everything is having at least a slightly different experience. And you can certainly find stark contrasts to your experience from what others are having. But it all is serving the purpose of playing this game of the drama, of the dream. And then eventually, the one will wake up from the dream. And the joy of the dream will come in the, as we said before, harmonious chaos that came about. Harmonious because it was intentional to say, let there be chaos. Right? And let what will happen, happen. And I will be surprised and fooled the whole way through. But that is the point. And so in this type of reality and realm, suffering is going to be a part of that. Because it comes with joy and happiness. It is the opposite side of the coin from the joy and the happiness. And so you can't have the joy and the happiness without the suffering coming with it. Because as the singular comes to explore and play a game, it does that through an immeasurable series of dualities. Knowing light because you know dark, knowing sound because you know silence, knowing happiness because you know suffering, and vice versa to all of those. And so maybe it's something to play with. I'm not trying to convince you, not trying to get you to convert to anything here, but it's an idea that may be worth letting it roll around in your head a little bit and see if it strikes a chord with you at all.